Hello. Please, have a seat right over here. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Sally Kellerman. So, as someone who has been working almost constantly, there's no place to start other than the beginning. Well, tell us first of all, had you always wanted to be an actor?
I always wanted to be an actress, actually, until we got politically correct and now I have to be an actor. But yes, I came out of the womb singing and acting. I did, and it was always my passion. And lucky for me, because I didn't learn a thing in school. So I'm a little narrow, but nonetheless, I love what I do.
Was there some seminal event that made you think, this is the thing I want to do?
No, I always did. My best friend in grammar school wrote a play, and she asked me to be the lead. I don't know what it was, but I added a song, singing in the bathtub.
You added a song to the play?
I added a song off stage, singing in the bathtub, singing for joy. It was something about B.O. It was a commercial of some kind, And I kind of hated Betty Hutton. I mean, at that moment, she did Annie, Get Your Gun when I was little. And I just loved her, and my mother loved to tell how I put on freckles, on my roller skates, and I would sing "Can't Get a Man with a Gun," and I found that to be true. But I saw Betty Hutton, recently on a film, and I thought, oh my God, yikes! I mean, Marlon. I read this quote once. Marlon Brando said, if you got 100, give 80. Betty gave about 150, and I'm sure there were some great performances, but I saw one the other night that was just like, oh my God, I'm not going to tell anybody that was mine. Actually, it was Doris Day. It was my big love, because she sang, She sang and acted, which is what I always wanted to do, and I'm doing. So that's nice.
Now, I read that the first film you starred in was Reform Girl.
Reform Schoolgirl.
Reform Schoolgirl.
It was my big break. I had 2 lines and when I came on screen, I was sort of the butch, tall, big thing, and I'd come on and I was carrying tools. And my best friend, Luana Anders, who was always my best friend, and then she was Luana Anderson. And my ex-boyfriend, Eddie Burns, my first and only boyfriend to that point, was Eddie Burns. Lend me your comb, those of you who lived long enough to know. Kooky. That was before he did that TV series. And he starred opposite. We'd already broken up. And he and Luana were the stars. And then I came on screen with the tools, and everybody in the audience laughed. That's right, it was sad. It was sad, But anyway.
So. Everybody laughed because?
The audience in the theater just kind of chuckled, as I came on. Born to be a comedian.
Now was Reform Schoolgirl when you got your SAG card then?
That was it. I mean, then I probably didn't work for ever. I guess, no, I don't know that I did. I don't know, really.
Well,
I did, what?
Well, you had worked with the Bob Hope Chrysler Theater, right?
Oh, yeah, I did every TV show known to man in the 60s. I was the guest star on the pilot of Star Trek, and which is one of those gifts that keeps on giving. I'd go and sign autographs, and real Trekkies, they don't care if you've sneezed on the show. They love you. And so Gary and I are we did a craft theater together, and The Outer Limits is what started my career. I mean, I did that, and I did something with, I can't even remember, some Alexis Smith, and she was tall, and so I think that's where I got my SAG card, because I was tall, and I had a couple of lines, so I got my card. But anyway, it was Joe Stefano who wrote the script of Psycho, and he saw me in a play, and he came backstage and he said, I saw you 6 months ago in a play, and the growth is amazing, and I may be doing a series, and if I do, I'm going to find a part for you. And as he drove away, I turned to my friend and said, I'll be in the restaurant for the rest of my life. You know? And then 6 months later, he sent me a script. And I think he sent it directly to my home, how he got my home. And it said, the part is Ingrid, the magic is yours. Oh, man, exactly. Oh. I haven't gotten one of those lately, you know. I'd like to have another, spread the word, you know, in case everybody wants to send me something so great. And so I did my first Outer Limits, and Conrad Hall and William Fraker were the cameraman and operator on the show.
Jeez.
And if you know who they are, you know, Connie Hall.
Fabulous cinematographer.
Incredible cinematographers, you know, again.
That's amazing.
Jaws for Bill Fraker, but Connie did just so many magnificent films. Anyway, I don't know how much
Butch
detail
Cassidy,
it's just
Well,
interesting to the details of the.
Yeah, no, the details are why we're here.
Details
for sure.
are why you're here?
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, Joe was very old-fashioned. I mean, he was old Hollywood, you know, and so he came down the set the first day, and he said he turned to the director, does she understand her motivation? And the director said, yeah, and then he turned to Connie and Bill and said, make her look like a movie star. And I had a fat face with a little short brown hair and, you know, and no confidence, you know, and they gave me a muskrat coat and a cigarette, and they lit me. It still wasn't like, and I thought, you know, and then everyone said, oh my God, and it was Cary Gardino and Gary Merrill were the actors, and you know, and I changed brains. I was a nurse. Every time I play a nurse, right to start. Seriously, I did it at 12 o'clock high, and they wanted me to play a recurring role as a nurse. I was too big then, though, for the costume. No, for the, you know, my attitude. But anyway, so then Joe wrote me an Outer Limits, and I started opposite Marty Landau, and I killed the most adorable outer space monster. And Joe made me a zip up the front house coat, you know, with a little fur collar. I mean, he was just so. But the first Outer Limits, the first one. So Joe said, oh my goodness, you're just the greatest thing in the world, you know. And I imagine, I don't know what, and he said, you must come see the rough cut. A recommendation that I make to none of you. I mean, you know, unless you're tough and the barnacles, you know, and you're, you know, the rough cut. I went in there and I wasn't Elizabeth Taylor. And I was just crushed, and I just jumped in my car and I sobbing all the way to combat, where later on, the man that I worked for, Robert Altman, did a lot of combats. But Vic Morrow was my friend, and I rushed into the dressing room and said, I'm not only ugly, I'm untalented. And it was the last episode to show, you know, the whole season. So I knew I was finished, you know, and I hadn't gotten an offer for anything like that. And I begged this guy, Jerry Brick, my agent, who I adored, but he was ready to get rid of me, you know, because he couldn't get me a job. And I said, oh, please keep me on your roster, just so if somebody does call me, I'd be able to tell them how to get to me. And so when my episode finally showed, unbeknownst to me, Joe Stefano had this picture of me, and I must have taken it somewhere, with stars beaming out of my eyes. And he said, you all know Sally Kellerman as an actress, but tonight you will see her as the star she really is. Well, the next day, Jerry Bick was on the lot of Universal, and one of the guys one of the executives walked by and said, hey, I saw your client on TV last night. I guess you'll be going to William Morris. And sure enough, we went right to William Morris. Oh. Because he hadn't wanted me anyway, you know, so I had a manager, and he said, well, we're going to go to William Morris, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so that was sort of my beginnings. After I did those two Outer Limits, I never stopped working. I did Chrysler, Kraft, Mannix. The other night, I'm sitting with my husband, and we're desperately looking for something to watch on television with the 700 channels, and we can't find anything. And so we've been to the 5s, the 2s, and I think we're now going to 308. You know, and so it's going to show all the old, you know, 60s shows. And they said, Mannix. I said, well, get ready, Jonathan, because I'm going to be on we'll be watching TV one night, and I'm going to be appearing on Mannix. 2 minutes later, Mannix starts, and there I am, Me and Mike Connor had 3 of the most soulful kisses that you've ever seen. Each one was a minute, and I have no memory of that. All I remember is I blanked it out. I was in every frame with the bouffant hairdo and black, eyes and lips, and oh my God, it was so funny to see it. It was so funny. But yes.
When you were
Please speak up. Chapter 2. Yeah.
So Mannix and Star Trek and did you have any sense when you were doing them back then that we would be talking about them this much later today?
Oh no! I mean, in Star Trek, you just wore these awful, powder blue stretch pants and everything. And I always say to Bill, I wasn't sure who looked worse in them, him or me, but. And standing around waiting for machines to do something, I never even heard of such a thing. And so that's pretty damn amazing. This other stuff is all just happening, Outer Limit shows because, but digging up all these other 60 shows is really fun. I mean, that's the only one I happen to see that.
What's the key to continually working in television like that, doing guest starring roles, etc.? What's the secret to that?
Do not follow my career path. That's what my first recommendation to you. But in television, it's just that, I got hot, and so I guest starred on everything. Kraft and Chrysler. I did 2 Chrysler. I was one with Rod Steiger. And I was a hard-bitten drunk. And then I did Diana Hyland. People mostly know her because she was Travolta's girlfriend, and she died years ago, before you all were born or something. But anyway, they called me on a weekend just after I'd done a Chrysler and a couple Outer Limits. And they said, listen, Diana Hyland has gotten sick. Would you be interested in playing opposite David Niven in a series? He had a series called The Rogues, and it was Charles Boyer, Gig Young, and David Niven. And so I went, and David Niven, oh God, he was so great. And after the second day of dailies, the second day of shooting, he comes in and says, you're going to be a big star. And I say, oh, why? Did you see the dailies? And he said, oh God, no, why spoil a good day? And boy, do I know that now, And he said, besides, I was never any good, I got an Academy Award just because I cried into a pillow so no one would see what I was doing. And he'd say, Sally, come down here and sit with us old farts. We're so bored, and I was so shy, and then he'd say, ride with me, shall I tell how, should I just, I don't know, again, please cut in any time. Midnight yet, Anyway, I'd ride in the car with David Niven, and one day he's saying, and I was skiing down the Alps, and I froze my cock. And I had to go into the bathroom, and stick it in a glass of brandy. And I only found out recently, or last year or something, from Robert Wagner, just happened to see him, that he was the one who walked in when David was sitting there. And I forget what the banter was, but they're both witty. So that was the Rogues, and so all those things helped, so that I just go along. And then you get to a place and you would be going around in the circle. You guest starred on all those shows, then you start all over again. You guest star on the next ones. And I was desperate to get in the movies. I'd always wanted to be in the movies. That was my big dream, to be in the movies. And I did it. I finally got thin, and I had a little midriff kind of pants, and I got to dance in front of a fireplace in a picture called The Third Day. And it was with George Papard and Elizabeth Ashley. And I thought, boy, I'm just going to rock it right to stardom with this one, because I was thin. And I didn't, but Henry Fonda, for some reason, yes, he saw me on TV, and he called his girlfriend, who I'd sold my apartment to for $100, thinking that it was much too much. I charged her too much. It was twin beds, a couch, Susie Plechette's chairs, 2 chairs that she'd left. We were roommates for about 15 minutes, and we both cried and said we were both such strong personalities, we knew we'd never make it. But she left the chairs, so I sold all of this, because I was going to move to New York, to this Shirley, who was an airline stewardess. So one day, years later, when I was doing the third day, just before the third day, I get a call. Hi, kid. It's Shirley. I go, okay, hi, how are you? I didn't know her that well. And she says, my boyfriend saw you on a Slattery's People, and he'd like you to do a play with him in New York. And I say, she didn't make it that good, and he'd like to meet with you. And I'm like, okay, her boyfriend, kid. And so I say, okay, and she says, do you know who my boyfriend is? And I go, no. And she goes, it's Henry Fonda. And I went, oh, well, for heaven's sakes, Shirley, how's the furniture? Anyway, he had Arthur Penn come to see me shoot a scene in the third day. And walking across the room, he said, oh, it was just so fantastic. But then who got the part? It was with Marlon, too, which I didn't even realize was Jane Fonda. So, at least he was fair, But anyway, so that was the first big break I had that nobody saw. But it was actually good. It was fun.
But you were saying you had really wanted to get into films. And what was it about film versus television? You already had a career going very well in television. What made you want to get into film?
I grew up in the 40s watching movies from the 30s and 40s and 50s. I always wanted to be I hate to say a movie star, an actress or an actor. I always wanted to be good, but I also, I grew up in a rather naive time, and I just.
Well, I didn't realize that at that time you were working with a lot of movie stars already. Then in the television work you were doing, and I didn't realize that was that common either. I
may not have been at that time, really, but.
That was a unique experience then.
Yeah, Rod Steiger. Wow, he was one of those guys that just was so great and everything, but he also could really give, 150%. And the director would sit on him, but he's given so many great performances. But there I was, this absolutely brand new actress, getting these nice roles. And I remember one time when we were shooting with Rod that the guys with suits from Universal came down. It's like if you had to change the to but, they'd come down, to decide whether that was going to be all right. And Rod comes to me and he goes, what do you think they want? I don't know. They just came down here to say hi, But anyway, so there you go. There's a big actor, just as insecure as the next guy. So ask me something, I'm happy to tell you anything.
Okay, so you're talking about wanting to become a movie star, or at least be in the movies.
I wanted to make movies, yeah, I did.
So that has to take us then to your first time working with Robert Altman.
I just said you have to, in the television days, you couldn't change a word, and 6 people would come down to decide. Somebody said that I could have a meeting. I'd done the Boston Strangler. I was the romantic lead in the Boston Strangler. I lived to tell the tale. I was the only one that lived. And Henry was in that picture, and he came on the set. He said, what have you done to her? She's a pretty girl. I was all bruised and bandaged up and everything. But, and I did a little tiny part in a thing with Catherine Deneuve and Jack Lemmon. And I was really excited and thrilled I was going to play his wife, but I just had a little one scene. And then he said to me, he made this up, though I think maybe 2 more movies with him, maybe just 1. But I just loved him so much. But my first experience with him is he comes to me and says, listen, it's my wife's birthday. We were just about to do my scene. Would you mind if the script supervisor read it with you and I go out shopping for my wife? No, not at all. No, she has to work with Jack Lemmon, and I'm not got the script supervisor. But I had a really lovely opportunity. So anyway, so I'd done those 2 little things, and of course they meant nothing to me because, it wasn't starring in the movie or it wasn't, the greatest. And so now go see this guy who's making a movie called MASH, and he's supposed to be good. And I was going out for the part of Lieutenant Dish, so although my sister always called me "shut up, big lips," you and your stupid voice, she used to say to me, but make me cry. I put on red lips that day because I thought, well, Lieutenant Dish, that's probably it. So I was always hiding my mouth. So I went in there, and there was a bunch of guys in the room. I didn't know who the director was. I didn't know any of them. Suddenly, in the middle of the meeting, he says, I'll give you the best part in the picture, hot lips. Now, he tells it like I was on the floor chewing on his pant leg, but that wasn't true. So I rushed right out of the room. I couldn't believe it. I made it into the movies. Oh my God, the best part in the picture. And right outside the building, thumbing through, I couldn't even find the part. It wasn't even there, and I went home just bitter, turned to stone. I'll never get in the movies. I'll never get in the movies. And so this agent, Bud Moss, I guess it was, and he said, Sally, you really ought to go back and see him because they say he's really talented. So I read the script again, I had all these thoughts. And so I went back, but I was so mad at him because he said I was in the best part in the picture and there wasn't even a part in there, And so I went in there and I just huffed and puffed and said, and he was sitting in a chair and I was standing up and I just saying, well, why does she have to leave the movie? And why didn't she do this? And why couldn't she do that? And why couldn't she do the other thing? And I'm not just a whack, I'm a woman. And I was just like all teary-eyed and puffy. And he said, well, why couldn't she? You could end up with something or nothing. Huh? Remember me from TV? You couldn't say the instead of but, I just knew I had found my home, and learning disabilities aside, I was with where I belonged, not intellectual, but so brilliant and I'd already done the shower scene and everything. And when I did, by the way, I had this breakdown scene, and afterwards he ran around the tent. He said, I had no idea you were going to do it like that. Could you do it again? I said, I guess so. He said, now you can stay in the film. You're vulnerable. You've changed. And so everything else that happened, if you saw the movie, everything that happened in the movie after that, he made up. But the thing that was so amazing about him is that, walk into the set one day, and as I said, I'd already done the shower scene and everything, so I already had a sense of who the character was. But on the way, he says, Sally, where are you from? And I said very proudly, San Fernando. And he goes, good view. He didn't even, didn't even dignify it with a look. He just kind of waves me away, and then he says, well, and then he goes, when Donald Sutherland asks you where you're from, tell him you like to think of the Army as your home. And that, if I hadn't done any of it, it was the whole key to the character, that she just wasn't a prig and she just wasn't nasty and for nasty's sake. It was because it was her home. And all these people were, treating it badly. And people, they talked about this when it came out, about it being, Bob was a chauvinist, and perhaps he was, but Hot Lips needed it. She needed help. She ended up with a great life. She was getting laid. She got to be a cheerleader, something I never would have thought I could ever do in high school, 175 pounds, 5'10", not really what you think of as a cheerleader. And I just loved it so much. And Elliot Gould, the fabulous Elliot Gould, and I saw the picture together a couple of times in his last year. And we were on a trip for Bob's book with Catherine Altman and Tom Skerritt and some people. And that was so much fun to see. It was just so much fun. And so many people today don't even know there was a movie, And gosh, really missing out on something because it was so great. And the fact that I got to be a cheerleader, and that I having just seen it recently, when the captain says, Hot Lips, you're a blithering idiot, and I was leaping about. Nothing has ever been more fun. Nothing, nothing. And, people like me and Elliot, and we're definitely devotees, just nothing. Elliot was so brilliant in The Long Goodbye, and nothing could compare to working with Bob, really, in a way.
So that character had completely changed based on your performance of the shower scene? No. What I'm saying is that he gave me the key to the character, but I had already, found. You're talking about think of the Army as your home, right? Yeah, but just that line, that was the sort of thing. What he tossed out when I first got there, I don't know. How this character began to develop, but it was already developing the character. Is what I meant. But I'm just saying, if I hadn't had a thought in my head and that had been the first thing he'd have said, I would have had a real understanding of the character just from that remark. And I did, and it helped me for the rest of it, sure. Was that one of the best pieces of direction he had given you? I don't remember any other direction he gave me. But what he says, he loves actors. And he said, once I've cast him, my job is done. He just likes to sit back and watch. And that's his play, as he says. That's his fun.
And he is unique in a world of independent filmmakers. And my husband is a producer, and I heard him one day on a very famous director who was absolutely not paying any attention to the studio or anybody, saying, hey, this is the budget. We're not shooting in that freezing cold place. We're going to shoot here. But just ignored it and kept on doing it. And then he got fired, and then they called Jonathan, you fucking, wait a minute. I didn't say that.
You can say whatever.
I can say whatever I want, just to kind of uplift the acting community. But he said, why don't you have the balls of, like Altman? You don't want to be a studio director. You want to be an independent, so go out and make it happen. But Bob just was amazing. I mean, there's nobody else. He'd have a flop, and then he'd be celebrated, and then he'd have another flop, and he'd be celebrated, and then and then he'd have two great pictures, and then and then he couldn't get a job, and then he'd go to Paris. Okay, I'll go to Paris and make some TV, and I'll go to this and that. There's no stopping him. And when we were doing Pret-a-Porter, he flew Lauren Bacall and me from Paris in the middle of shooting to New York City to Lincoln Center. And oh my God, what a great, great night that was. And it was Keith Carradine and Susan Sarandon and Tim Robbins and Jack Lemmon and blah, 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 just everybody, and Robbie Williams and everything. And that was so much fun. But anyway.
But he said that once he had cast, his work was done. But But his movies are marked by great cast, but also by just wonderful performances. I'm guessing he must have done something to make you all feel comfortable. And
well, you know what it's like in real life when somebody really gets you, cares about you, loves you. Well, that's certainly the feeling that I had, and I think that everybody that's worked for him, I like to think that I'm really, really special. And we know that I really, really am. No, but I was always close with Bob. I mean, except for the falling out times, but right up to the end, very close with Bob. Loved him, really felt he loved me too, and But that was his gift. I mean, Elliot would tell you, all kinds of other interesting things, but he was open. He was open to ideas and he screenings. He'd everybody go to the dailies. Now that was something I would never have done except for Bob. But everybody go in, and he'd have a drink and lights are out, and he didn't care. He was open. He'd listen to anybody and then just take what he liked. And so that by saying that was not saying that he didn't have any other things to say. What he said is that the art director was just brilliant at this moment, because I'm a senior. I can't think of his name. I forget his name. I adored him. I knew him way before Bob. But he told me I had to wear garters, and I was like, oh my God, the skirt's so tight already, and I'm like, going to be bursting out of my costumes at any minute, and I hate having to put something on. So one day I walk out in the middle of the quad, I'll call it, this big of dirt, whatever it was, and I go, hey, Leon Erickson, hey, I got your garters right here. And Bob walks by and goes, oh, garters, come with me. And then he's got me stepping out of the helicopter with the big legs, and the garters showing and everything like that. So, so he just had it in his head, and he didn't have to tell me anything, you know what I mean, about that. He just put me in the situation. And
because he knew how you would react to it then.
Well, he told me to, salute, and I'm bending over, and, so I was happy. I mean, it was just so silly, but he just created that, without having a lot of direction. So, I mean, yes, I can't tell you the things he said, but the idea is that he would toss an idea out. It wasn't, there are directors, not George Roy Hill, but, I worked with George Roy Hill also at Sundance, Butch Cassidy, and he was great. But everything was, I say, the first rehearsal, I go, is that sort of along the lines, is that the character? And he goes, yes, a little less of this, and I think we've got it, And then he would say, in one scene, a breakfast scene with Diane Lane and I can't think of Arthur Hill, and saying, Sally, can you put your arms down? But the way he'd say it, was severe, but somehow it was Yeah, yes, I can, you know. And then he'd say, neck cut, can you put your arms down and raise your voice, you know? And so, I mean, that was his direction, but he made you tickle inside. I mean, it was just so ludicrous that, you know, I mean, and certainly to the point, you know.
Right.
A double take, not like that, like this. Close your eyes and whatever. I mean, you know, so that was another, and he was a great director, George Royhill. Wonderful director.
Totally
Totally
style.
different than Bob, you know. So Bob is a gift, George Royhill is a gift, you know, there's all kinds, and then there's the non-gifts. Here's a non-gift, and I don't, if you know, cut in. Don't let me go too far. But I hope you're not in the audience, sir, the director. But I made a picture called Meatballs 3 with Patrick Dempsey. And first he had us memorize the whole script. We had to memorize the script right away, which, I mean, isn't a terrible idea, but maybe not as spontaneous, you know, but I don't know, but it's good to know your role. It's good to work on it. And every time we did a take, he'd say, all right, we'd have a rehearsal, and then we'd have a take. All right, Sally, do it exactly like the rehearsal. Roll it. And I'd be going, what did I do in the rehearsal? I had no idea. You know, and he did it every single time. Now, I hated him for 9 months after the shoot. And then I realized it was my fault. What kind of putz? By this time, I'd been in a lot of movies. I'm going to shoot the effing rehearsal if you like it so much, you know? Or what, I mean, meanwhile, Patrick Dempsey was young. Nothing bothered him. It didn't matter if he said anything to him. He was just so free and delightful, you know? But I called my shrink about halfway through the film, sobbing. And he says, after every take, I'm like a wooden Indian. Every before, he says, do it exactly like the rehearsal. He said, well, you know better than that. You know there are 3,000 ways to be creative. Next time he says it, say, you bet. And then just do whatever you want. So, next time, I'm back on the set, and he said, all right, now exactly like the rehearsal. I said, now I can put my thumb up. You bet. And then I did whatever I wanted. And he said, cut. And he stopped, and he had to think about it. And he said, well, it's not exactly like the rehearsal, but print it. So, you know, I could have been so much better. It was such a darling part. I got to wear the greatest costumes. I had to be Marlene Dietrich and Marilyn Monroe. I got to be everybody in the costume. Blah, blah, blah. So, yes, and now back to you. What do you want to know?
Well, I'm still kind of stuck on Altman because
please,
I'm very
be my
curious
guest,
about
yeah.
this. So he would block scenes out with you, and then change them.
We should have Elliot up here for this. You know, not that I don't remember any of the. I mean,
just knowing that it was very free on set, but I'm also thinking, you know, but he also would do very camera conscious moves sometimes. And
yes, he did those long dollies and things like that. But you never had at least I didn't ever have the feeling that, I mean, he'd just tell you, in Brewster McCloud, and I realized how grateful I should have been, you know. I should have been. But here's a trap not to fall into, is believing your own publicity. After MASH, I got nominated for an Academy Award and everything. I began to believe my own publicity. But one of the things Bob did, he took me from this wild, you know, maniac part and gave me a part in a trench coat where I just walked around and cawed and gave Bud Cort a bath, you know, and you got to see wing scars on my back, and I got to just be this graceful thing, you know, gliding through here. And then he said to me, Sally, you know how you always say in the paper how much you love me and you do anything for me? And I go, yeah. What? How do you like snakes? And if you, not everyone saw Brewster McCloud, but it's one of his favorite films. And I had to carry a big boa constrictor, 5-foot boa constrictor, and they said, just put your hand here and that'll keep the snake from killing you. You know? But anyway, it was more about, I wish Elliot was talking because he'd be able to express this better. But just what you said, he did long shots, so he'd just say, get over there, you know. I mean, really, it wasn't, I don't know.
Well, finding that
balance. You worked
balance.
it out together, you know, you worked it out together. And I mean, because I've heard Elliot talk about The Long Goodbye, which he was so great in, and that was one of my absolute favorite Altman films. It probably could be my favorite, I don't know. But except for MASH and Brewster McCloud. But
it's always a struggle to balance in any kind of filmmaking or television, the technical aspect with the artistic aspect, right? And so...
But he trusted his actors so much that I just saw a piece just the other night, looking through those 300, 700 channels, and there was at the end of Pret-a-Porter when, oh gosh, who was the beautiful blonde? Oh, gorgeous. She, for LA Confidential, she won. Kim Basinger came. And she was so funny, and I don't remember her ever being funny, although John says in one of his Blake Edwards films that she was funny too in that. But I saw her out there, you know, and just talking the thing, and Bob would just probably tell her to go over there and, you know, just tell him you don't like him. Or, you know, it was that kind of...
just very casual. Everything felt very casual?
If Elliot were in the audience, he could go, yes or no, you know. I don't know.
Well, to you.
I want to help you out.
No, but did it feel... did it feel casual when you were on set? It seems like everything felt very open and you...
It wasn't scary. It was not scary. It really wasn't. It was just... you know, I said after Pret-a-Porter, because I had this awful scene where he was doing a callback, you know, to the shower scene. I begged him, you know, there's beautiful lingerie, there's lovely things that have happened since then. They'll be running from the theater, and, you know, stuff like that. And so afterwards, and all the time up to that scene, I said, you know, Bob, there's nothing there yet. You know, I mean, there's nothing, you know, to do. I'm going to be the girl. Who's the woman that took her shirt off? And then, you know, who was that? You know, because there was nothing there. He said, we'll work it out when we get there. We'll work it out when we get there. So we got there, and, you know, it wasn't, I hated it. I didn't hate being there that day. It wasn't my favorite. And so we made it up together, you know what I mean? And that's great. I mean, is it, you know, I mean, I think Bob went through many stages. One, because he sort of was excited about his own personality, you know, his own success also, you know. So he went through a period, you know, I turned down a couple of movies, which I'll never get over. And I hope in heaven I'll get another chance to work with him, you know. I just was too stupid and arrogant. And, you know, I had reasons, but, you know, I can't believe I did.
Which movies do you regret turning down?
Well, just one was, what is it called? The Wedding. And I said, well, I can't, there's not enough money, and I have my daughter, I have to take care of my daughter, and blah, 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 and, you know. And then the other one that I missed out on was Nashville, because he was doing McCabe and Mrs. Miller, and he called me and said, will you be in my picture after next? And I said, well, if the part is good, you know. Well, he was arrogant too. I was arrogant, and he was too. So the minute I said that, he hung up, and that was the end of me. And I'm a singer, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have liked to be in Nashville. Doesn't mean that I would have ever been in the girl, what is her name, starred in Nashville, the girl that was killed. Oh, she's such a wonderful singer too. Okay, well.
Laurie Singer was in Nashville.
No, I know, but this was the star of it. She was the dark-haired girl that was so vulnerable and lovely and sang great, and then she was shot at the end of the movie. But that's okay. Before your time, after your time, before it, during. But I don't know. I'm just saying my personal experience was it was never hard work. It was like, actually, MASH was like going on a picnic with a genius sitting in a chair, you know, and just to toss out an idea or tell you to walk over there, get up there. And I mean, as the cheerleading thing, you know, okay, he's up on a crane somewhere over the football game, and they say, roll it, and here's Sally, a big sound over the sound system. When the gun goes off at the half, say, my God, they shot him. Well, that's my favorite, you know. The blithering idiot went for that in a minute. So I only really did 3 films with Bob, I guess. And I did a television series, and then I did a pilot with him, and then I did, I don't know what else. And he was very much a supporter of my music. And here's the kind of direction he gave. You know, he hosted a night for me, and I had some wonderful, talented writers working with me. You know, that had done all the Carol Burnett specials and all the everything. You know, in her series. But they taped me for hours and hours talking, and then wrote this stuff, and every song matched to something. You know, and I told stories that just. I am so embarrassed to tell them, you know, I'm fat in high school. You know what? It was just so boring to me, but somehow that would lead into some other song, and they were great, you know. And I, you know, big Vegas type of show, and Bob hosted it, and people just seemed to love it, and they'd run backstage and they cheered and everything like that. And I was glad that I could do it, you know, happy, proud intermissions and you know lighting, and he said, I want you and the two people that worked on the show to meet me tomorrow morning for breakfast. And I went to meet him, and he said, don't talk. Don't talk. That was his direction. And I went to the Roxy for a year on Sunset Boulevard and sang standards and tried not to talk. And finally one night I went, I'm so happy. It was the most humiliating moment of my life, you know, because I was trying so hard not to say anything. And what it did was, I ended up for 3 years, Hal David of Backrack and David got me with this incredible keyboard guy that made all the difference. So we went to Genghis Cohen. My older daughter said, I love to tell people that my mother works out at Genghis Cohen, you know, all young kids with a guitar, you know, and me. But I realized, at least I think this is what Bob, he wanted me to be me. And so what happened is that if I'd trip, or I'd have to hold the lyric sheet, or I'd drop them and I'd have to bend over and pick them up and people would laugh, you know, I saw that really it seemed like people wanted to know more about who I was in the moment rather than having to tell by written. I mean, I'm loving tonight. I hope you all aren't going to bed early, but you know. I mean, I'm saying this is the most natural thing in the world for any actor I know, you know, to talk about themselves. You know. This is a rough gig, guys. You know. But to have the writing and to come out and have to, you know. I think now it wouldn't matter if I had writing or not, but and then when I was at the Roxy, Bob would call me from New York because somebody that he knew had come to my show, and he'd say, you got an A+, not for talking, not for being an actress, but for being a singer.
Being a
So a singer. Yeah, so he was just really in my corner, really wanting me to, you know, not blow it, because he believed in me in that way, you know. So that was really nice. So
I fear I missed a part of that story. So he said, come to breakfast with me.
With the other two that created the show with me.
And don't talk,
And
meaning
he said,
don't talk at the breakfast?
No, don't talk in the show.
Don't talk in the show.
Don't talk in the show. I went to the Roxy and I didn't talk for a year. I'd go there once a month and sing, you know.
Just get up and sing. And
I was still trying to sing. Not that, and now I'm not trying to sing anymore, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And you know, the good actors, and I think it's really helped my work. I just did a low SAG movie with Paul Sorvino, but I love my role. And I got all these little notes of people, like Mark Rydell told me some stuff, and somebody else told me something, and Gabriel Byrne. Did you all see In Treatment?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, I loved it. I did everything but run through the house naked, you know. I mean, and I really wouldn't have gotten it, but I mean, you know, I really tried to get, I wanted to be in somewhere you could be real and take a pause and think before you speak and everything like that. And I read something, one of my notes for this last show was something about, you know, something that I suppose we already know, but just came out of Gabriel's voice, and something about the camera photographs feelings, you know. And I went to do this little show, this movie, and I tell you, feelings were the deal. I mean, every place, everything was a help. There were all these veterans, 90-year-old veterans that pulled up in their cars, and I'm a big crybaby in real life, but on the screen, I've not been a big crier, you know. I walked out there, and the whole script landed in my head. And the tears just started rolling down my eyes. I was like, oh my God, I'm crying, you know. A director I work with, a great director named Larry Eric, I've done plays with Virginia Woolf, and he said, if crying was acting, my Aunt Fanny would have been a star. So I'm not suggesting crying is the deal. I just, for me, it was like I almost stopped in the middle of the scene and went, "Yay, I'm crying!" But I didn't. And you know, working with other actors, I mean, there's so much give and take, and I was so nervous because Paul was a little, you know, I don't want to wait for my makeup, and I don't want to get here, and I'm going to get there. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to miss one. I'm going to drop a line in the rehearsal, and before we shoot, and I'll be dead. Instead, he says, "Come on in, let's work this out." I said, "Okay." I was worried about the lines. He said, "Not the lines. It's not the lines. Let's find out what the scene's about." So that was really great. And then this other scene that I had, because it's a sentimental piece, I cried at home when I was working on the script. I cried in my hotel room, the thing, and it was one of the last things I shot, and I was just tears, puddles of tears. And I get there, and I wasn't sure how. I knew I was going to be angry at my daughter, and I just wasn't sure how I was going to express it. Was I going to, sounds like amateur R and Dixie, but you know, was I going to yell it, or was I going to shout it, or was I going to hold it in, or was I, you know, I just didn't know. You know, I mean, deep, like when I went out to count the lines of the script. You know, really, but I really hadn't decided. So I thought in rehearsal. So the girl comes in. "Oh yeah, let's go in and work on the scene." And so I just thought, I'll just get that out of the way. I'll get the, you know, kind of shouting. I didn't go full out, but I just went in that direction. And she wasn't looking at me. This girl that I was working with, I can't think of her name, but she was wonderful. And she'd been on a soap for 25 years. And she just looked kind of out somewhere, and she said, "You know, this piece is so, you know, full," or however she put it. You know, it's that it hardly needs anything, does it? And if she was speaking to me, you know, because I wasn't sure, I was just experimenting, you know, hadn't locked in anything. But her saying that, there wasn't any need for tears, there wasn't any need for anything except to look at her, listen to her, and it just all just flowed, so real, and she was so lovely to work with, and I just think acting is, you know, I've been out singing for so long now, and it took me all these years. I've sunk my career 3 times getting bands. Well, the first time, bands. When I was being offered everything, I got a band and went on the road for 3 months, you know, and came back 50,000 in the hole. But I used to say what fun we had at the cook's house after the 3rd show by the freeway. But this thing, so it took me, but I never wanted one without the other. And once I got nominated, I said, "Okay, I got that set. Now I'm going to go work on my music. Don't ever study with me." I could have done both easily, you know what I mean? But I didn't. I wanted soul. I wanted to earn my stripes like I did as an actress by doing plays and going to class and things. But the point is now that my music, after all these years, I'm not working anymore since the time at the Roxy or the silly time at the Genghis Khan. I did get free, and I go out there and I love the audience, and I'm willing to tell them anything they want to know, but mostly I just love to sing. And I probably will have to talk a little bit, but I don't need to, we all have so much fun, me and the audience, you know, and so I think that's what's happened. I got free there, and I think that's coming back into helping my acting now, because this is the second job I've done where I felt pretty good, you know. I don't have to see it, but you know, I don't need any proof, but I felt good. And there's a freedom. So I'm just going to say that Mark Rydell is a director, you know, on Golden Pond. He said, don't protect yourself. That's where the gravy is. Something that was one of my other notes, you know, don't protect yourself.
As you're talking about acting and singing, we were talking backstage a little bit about the different types of energies that different jobs have. How is acting different from singing for you in terms of either the satisfaction that you get or the way you feel when you're doing it?
I wasn't sure that I was even going to act anymore, you know. I mean, I knew I would, I hoped, but, you know, I didn't really, it wasn't my, you know, right off. 5 a.m., 4 a.m., 3:30, you know, a.m., you know, 11 o'clock at night. That's one of the differences between singing and acting. Singing, it's like, well, so what time do you want to rehearse tomorrow? What do you think, 10 or 11? You know, okay, well, 11, all right. Okay, we're going to the studio, well, let's go in around 5 tonight, you know, I mean, and so no waiting around. You walk into rehearsal, and the minute you get there, it's, what do you hear? Music. But this last experience, these last two acting, when I played an Alzheimer's patient and I had to do research and stuff like that, and it turned out pretty well. And because I said yes just because I like to take chances, you know. And then I thought, what have I done? I haven't been acting, I've been singing. Alzheimer's, you know, would not be good if it wasn't, you know, if it didn't have some semblance of real and everything. But I love acting too. I mean, I've just come back to loving it because of working with those other actors and having them give something, and the director was very open, you know, saying, I feel, and now that director, probably he could have said more, probably he could, you know, but he was very sensitive, and he said, I feel like I'm learning from you two, and Paul and I were working together, you know. But certainly Bob, and I would talk about Bob all night, you know, if I could, I would like to be able to tell you, you know, things, just, it's that thing that you feel when somebody really gets you. And to give that to an actor, I'm sure you all know about that, you know, it frees you. It's like, oh, you like that? Well, wait till you see this, you know. You just don't feel like you have to prove anything.
Right.
And that's a great gift. And I'm sure that, as I said, I keep talking about Elliot because I love Elliot, and I had such a big crush on him when we did MASH. And he and Donald were horrible to me. One time Donald asked me if I'd like to go to the movies on a Thursday night with him. And I said, oh, okay, you know, great. And Tuesday came, Wednesday came, not a word, you know. Now it's like Wednesday evening or something, and I go, well, Donald, I never would talk directly to Elliot because, you know, I had a crush on him, so I go to Donald and go, well, Donald, are we going to the movies tomorrow night? What? Well, movies? I don't know. I'm not going. I'm going to blah, 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 you know. That would just be the end of that one. So it was my birthday one day, and I was leaving the set, and they're in a car, and they go, Sally, I heard it's your birthday. Come on, we'll meet you over at the Brown Derby, and you know. And I say, just go away. I'm not going to meet you anywhere. You know, get out of here. You know, no, come on, please meet me at the Brown Derby. Meet us at the Brown Derby. So I went to the Brown Derby. I don't know how Elliot would tell the story, but this is how I'm telling it. This is my memory of it. I go to the Brown Derby and sit there like a putz. They're not there, you know. I'm going, oh man, I fell for it again. I'm like sitting there. It's my birthday. So finally, I just about to give up, and I stand up, and rounding the corner was Elliot and Don. Surprise! And they brought a box of candy, I think, you know, which really is the key to my heart. That was not fun, Elliot, because I already had a crush on you. Now I got candy. You know what I'm saying? It's lucky I got over it. Well, I probably still have a little bit of a crush on him. But anyway, where were we?
Well, you've spoken a lot about Robert Altman and how he created this wonderful atmosphere for you. What is the most important thing that you look for in the directors that you work with?
Someone who likes my work and wants to work with me. Whoever will hire me. That's what I look for. That's what I look for. Well, I'm trying to think. It's Schaefer. Oh, shoot. He directed this great thing with the Germans where they sat around the table. It was an HBO or something, and they sat around the table, and they decided who they were going to kill and everything. It was a great show. I can't think what it was. It wasn't Franklin Schaffner, but it was another really wonderful director who's done movies and everything else. And I'll just tell you this as a tip. He said when he got kind of tuned into what directing was about, he had this young girl, and she was going to have to come in. You know, there was, you know how you have to go through aisles like this, and then put a ticket in and get in a car. I don't know what it was, but something like that. And he took her aside and he said, "Now, about your character, you know, I think when she was young, she really, you know, candy was very important to her, but her mother, you know," and then he, you know, and he just goes on and on, and now, and then when she's older, I feel that she probably, you know, this and that and the other thing. And he got through all this, and then she said, "And do you think you know, she said, yeah, do I go in this way or that way?" And he said, as a director, he said, "I get it. you know. So, you know, not a lot of feeling that you have to do a lot with an actor.
Let the actor do their work.
Well, yeah, I mean, just, you know, that trust, you know, and then you get to watch, and then you get to say, hey, maybe you get an idea from something that the actor has brought to it, and be able to, you know, or guide them if they're way off the track and things like that. But it's that just feeling of that you're there because somebody believes you can give a good performance. You know. Do you ask questions here? Is there anything?
Well, we've got some questions on cards here too.
Oh, all right.
And we've got a couple people. Let's see. We've got a couple people who are asking about Centennial.
Oh, he told me this on the way in. I said, let's open with Centennial. You'll be relieved to know I only have 1 minute to say about Centennial. I love my makeup man because he used to say, it's curtain time, meaning, you know, when you're dead. You know, I just love that. It was curtain time. I've always remembered that. And I remember standing somewhere near some water with Perry Mason, Raymond Burr, yeah. And probably not appreciating that how much I loved him, you know, and I don't remember the scene. And then I do remember Bob Conrad. I guess I was his German wife, and about a foot taller than him. And he had been away, and I didn't even remember that I had much of a part in Centennial, but so he was arriving home, and I was to open the door and go, oh, wonderful, welcome back. 15 years he'd been gone, or whatever it was. And Bob Conrad is a real, you know, jock, you know, boxing, you know, shirt off, and, you know, just macho man. No, he was a darling guy, but, you know. So he arrived home on my close-up with his mustache half ripped off, no shirt on, sweating, you know, kind of all sweaty and wet from boxing, and the mustache. Oh, darling, please don't touch me, you know. So those are my memories of Centennial. That's it. That's literally and truly all I remembered about it. So your friend who asked the question, I'll be interested to know, was I really in it, you know? That's all I remember.
We've got Tony Brown and Jacob Burst both asking about it here. And,
two people.
Yes. So.
Yikes! I'm sorry if I let you down.
And according to them, it's one of the larger budget miniseries adaptations ever.
It was, and it was. People just love it, and lately it's like Lost Horizon. People come up to me now lately saying, my family and I watch it every Christmas. You know, young people. Somehow young people have all gotten on to Lost Horizon, which opened to the worst book of the worst films ever made. You know, and now, and Bert and Hal. You know, they were owned the world at that moment, you know. And I just saw them the other night, how David just died. And it was a lovely celebration of his life and everything. And I saw Bert, and I was talking to him, and I said, you know, people come to me all the time about Lost Horizon. He said, I hear Lost Horizon, I just run, you know, out of town. But so Centennial was, I better start saying, yes, I'll never forget my experience in Centennial.
Well, you have gotten to work on a lot of different miniseries and
I have.
Well,
are there other miniseries?
Was it the Boston Strangler? Was a miniseries, wasn't it?
No, that was a movie.
Was that it? Oh, that was a made-for-TV movie.
Tony Curtis and Henry Fonda.
All right.
And me, the romantic lead.
But the differences between working in television, working in film, and working in a miniseries. What's the different feeling?
Miniseries goes on for a long time. I don't think I went along with it, but I think that's it. And
but is that any more intimidating to be committed to a character in a short amount of time for that many shooting days?
You mean in a miniseries?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never done one. Oh, I mean, I have done one.
We don't have to talk about Centennial anymore.
No, I mean, I don't. I did, but I can't answer that question because it was, you know, it was an opportunity to you have a character that you're helping to create, and you know, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, movies you have more time, maybe not nowadays, but television it moves more quickly.
Mm-hmm. What
I
about
wish I had a Kleenex.
Victor is asking, can you please share a story about Rodney Dangerfield?
Oh, yeah, sure. I always feel it's a little disappointing to share about Rodney because he was rather a serious guy. But he was also a Vegas guy, a nightclub guy. And I will tell you that we've been working together. It wasn't, we were best friends. You know, he'd come into the, should I just tell it like it was?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, one morning at 6 in the morning, he comes in, all right, I'm stoned. You know. And then, you know, the director loved him and really appreciated his talent. Me, I didn't even think I was going to. I said to my husband, how am I going to get this part? I don't even think I like Rodney Dangerfield. And only time I'd seen him was just flashing by, you know, 2 minutes of Caddyshack or something like that. And they asked me to read, and I couldn't at the time. They wanted me to, so they said, well, we'll give you the little part at the beginning. I said, I don't want that. And so if you can get me another meeting with him, fine. If not, I don't want to do it. So knowing that they didn't want to see me for the role I ended up playing, I had to walk into the studio, and they were in the back iron stairs that led up to their office in one of these bungalows. And all the way there, I'm thinking, how am I going to get this part? I mean, you know, how am I going to get in the room, never mind the part? I didn't think about the part at this point, just how to get into the room knowing that they were come in, you know, and want to see me. So anyway, I get up to the top, I open the door, and I go, oh, good, you're all as handsome as I remember. I got to go. Now I got to go. And Rodney goes, readings are hard, aren't they? I said, yeah. Readings are hard. He laughed, you know. And then he said, did you change your hair? And I looked at him, and I meant it too. I said, no, did you change yours? He looked better than me, and then I just had to read the poem, and I got the job. But so then one night he was being honored at the airport for something. And the airport. The 100 fly card, you know, club, you know. No, it was you know, by the airport, and anyway, he'd taken a girl that I didn't know, a blonde, and he was drinking and, you know, smoking and everything like that, all the way there and everything like that. But he was really being sweet and warm and nice, and I adored him. My job as an actress, one of the easiest gigs I ever had. I just had to love him. I didn't have to do another thing, and. Anyway, so on the way home, because now we're so chummy, I said to him, you know, you're going to have to come up to the house and have dinner with Jonathan. And he goes, the look on his face, he would have rather jumped out of a helicopter without a parachute. You know, honest to God, I've cracked up about that all forever. The rest of my life I will, because he didn't want to come up and have a nice quiet dinner with me and Jonathan, believe me. You know, he was a nightclub guy. He grew up in nightclubs. And during the middle of the shooting, we flew to Vegas, and he did his show, and he was like a musician. He was just like, take you up here, and he'd be roaring with laughter, and then, you know, if we weren't, he'd bring you down here. And it was just, he was like a musician. He was just great. And he was always, and we had to kiss in the movie, and people always say, ooh, you kissed Rodney Dangerfield? No, remember, I love him now. You know, I just said to him, Rodney, I didn't mean this, and though I said it, but I said, okay, Rodney, let's go. Let's mop up, have a good blow, and we'll go in there and have a kiss. You know what I mean? But I didn't mean... he was probably already taking care of that, which is why he was dripping wet and everything like that. You know? So, but I loved him. And the director said, Rodney, just plant your feet and speak. And if you don't mind my bragging, he did. The director said that he gave me the credit for making Rodney seem human. But he was very human. I mean, he was just a brilliant. I mean, he's like, you know, most all comics hero, you know. Really amazing. So it was fun. Oh, the other thing, the other thing we got in the limo, I hadn't done a studio film in quite a while. So if they were shooting across the street from my house, they would drive us across the street in a limo, you know. And so Rodney's in the back seat with me going, oh, this is the worst experience I've had in my life. How can you? And the more he complained, the hardier I laughed, you know. Because he was funny, you know, it just didn't matter.
I was going to say, I've been on some sets of comedies where it's much funnier between the takes than it is on film, and I've been on others where it was horribly tense between takes. What was the experience like on back to
Well,
school?
you know, I didn't have to direct Rodney, and I wasn't there every day, you know, and stuff like that. And I guess, you know, he didn't always make it easy, I suppose, you know. But he was at night in his robe writing those jokes, you know, call me when you got no class. Just, this group had seen the movie. Yeah. And it was great.
That's terrific.
So,
And do you need
oh, Kleenex. All right, I was hoping, now here's how we do it. The stars. The card.
Now, we haven't talked at all about Last of the Red Hot Lovers.
Oh my gosh, you know what? I'm so glad you brought that up. It's one of my proudest performances. And I cry, Alan Arkin, oh, I love Alan Arkin. He was so funny in it too, God almighty. They just had offered it to me, and I was delighted. And Gene Saks hated everything I did. And it was a lot of, Gene Saks was a director. He was a Broadway director, and he's directed a lot of, and he did a couple of other hit films. Actually, Last of the Red Hot Lovers was not a hit. It was when Neil Simon was writing them, you know, not opening up so much as a movie, although Plaza Suite did very well, you know, so maybe it was me. But anyway, I played Alan Arkin. I meet Alan Arkin. He says, listen, we're not going to like each other at the end of the filming. I said, why not? I've never not liked anybody, except for Don and Elliot. No, I love them, but from afar. I said, yeah, see, because you're a ball-cutting woman, and I'm a wimp, and so that's why we're not going to get along. I thought, okay, if you say so. And I was already loving him and admiring how he smelled his fingers and everything. And, but... I mean, every take I did, you know, Gene would say, no, let's do it again. And I'd be like, you don't like anything I bring in here. And, you know, I wanted to know harder, tougher, blah, 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 whatever he did. And he was so right. The reviews were all about my vulnerability, blah, blah, blah. And it came from being so tough. And the harder I was with my dialogue and everything, which was so funny. And so, you just felt sorry for the woman, you know. But if I had played it, you know, for me, you just said, ooh. But because he just got me to that, just absolutely cold as could be. And then Alan was doing there's so much, Neil Simon, you know, talks more than I do in his plays, but, and Alan was doing, you know, close-up of one of his shots, and it was a long thing, and then he said, you're moving. You're trying to distract me. I was like, I'm not. I didn't even know I was moving or anything. You know, I was just engaged in his wonderful performance. And so we ended up not a happy couple. And then they called us asked me to do Rafferty and the Goldust Twins, and I shouldn't have done it because I did Slither with Jimmy Caan, which I just loved Jimmy Caan. I loved him so much. My character loved him so much in that movie that it won't matter what he does in his life. Through this drug period, through everything, I loved him every minute of it. And he boxed and lassoed me, and he just, I loved him, just adored him. What was the point? I just done Slither, a road picture, you know, and now they offered me Rafferty and the Goldust Twins, and I didn't want to do it, but it had a song in it. Dun, 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 dun. Anything for a song. So I said yes, and then they said Alan Arkin was going to play opposite me. He tried not to do it. He wasn't going to work with me again. And then someone said, well, you're going to better do it because you'll be good. And we just ended up loving each other, just so close and just so connected because we had a director, not so good. A chauvinist. Every time I'd make a suggestion, he'd say, no, that's not possible. And Alan, bless his heart, would say, why not? That's a great idea. Oh. Okay, well, let's do that then, you know. That'll be fun. But, you know, and if I ever, out of the corner of my eye, saw him, he was always looking over at some girl down the street while we were doing this scene. I shouldn't have done the picture, but I loved that Alan and I got so close.
And then you went back and worked with Lauren Hutton and Sissy Spacek on Welcome to LA?
Oh, I forgot I did. Oh, I forgot that's another movie. Oh, Bob didn't direct that. No, Bob.
Didn't he? I thought he did.
No, it was Alan Rudolph. And my manager...
Did Altman produce it then?
11 years, yeah.
Okay.
Dropped dead overnight, which is, any of you know, is not fun. And I wanted to be with people that I knew loved me. And so I committed to starring opposite Lee Marvin in a film. But I left to go up and be with Catherine and Bob, because I just was so sad. I love this manager so much. And while I was up there, and I've already committed to do this movie, Bob says, "You want to do this movie? I'm going to produce it. Alan Rudolph, he's new and he's going to do it, $15,000. And I was making like a regular salary for, that you make when you're starring in movies. And I said, sure, I'll do it. So I called up Jack Still Automation and said, I'm not doing the movie. If I'd done that today, or when Kim Basinger stepped out of a movie, they took her town away from her. I didn't have a town to take, but no, it would be horrible. And I still, Jack Zillotti probably doesn't even remember my name, but, I still feel like amends, like, we learned an Al-Anon or something, I owe him an amends because he got, thank you very much. So you're not going to do it. And I didn't get in any trouble. I didn't get sued, They were probably at the studio going, yay, she's not going to do it. Anyway, so I did the 15,000, typical of my
How was it working with Sissy Spacek?
Oh, I love Sissy Spacek. She played my bare-breasted housekeeper, vacuuming with no shirt on and everything like that. But when Bob told me to do this, okay, I'm playing a real estate agent. Girl, aren't you glad I have this? I was drooling out the side of my mouth or something. Across the street from me. So I knew exactly how I was going to play this character. I was going to get a red leisure suit and get a white blonde streak of blonde, in my hair. Pull it back in some bun. And, sometimes you work from the outside, sometimes you work from, a deeper place. But a lot in the beginning of my career, what I wore always has a big influence on. And so I got to the set and I wanted to show Bob that I wouldn't have to be a big star, because I'd turned down a couple of things and I was working my way into good graces in terms of working. So I got there, and this girl that Bob relied on, that Catherine hated, his wife hated from the minute she worked, and it took until she had a stroke and couldn't work anymore that Bob never got rid of her. And I got there, and she said, here are the clothes you'll be wearing. And one of the fun things about being an actor and actress is you get to help develop the costume and, create the character. And she goes, here are your clothes for your part. And it was a big droopy pink bow with a, tweed skirt or something. I don't know, nothing that I had in mind for my part. Okay, thank you. And I immediately became a droopy. I've never seen it, really. I don't think I've seen it, but I think I must have been awfully droopy. Yeah, the very thing that I wasn't in Last of Our Lovers, But anyway, it was great working with Sissy. And then one day she calls me up. I'm taking my older daughter, and we got her passport, and we're going to Jamaica or somewhere to make a movie, and she's going to get to come with me. And it's so exciting. And we got home from the passport place, and they said the movie has been canceled. And me and Claire just so disappointed. She was 12 or something. Oh no, oh shoot. Ring, hi, Sissy. Would you like to play my best friend? This is not a good enough accent for her, but my best friend. Guy, you should get some painter's pants like mine. They're really great. That's more like Sissy, but I don't know how to do that all the way. But she said, you play my best friend, you get to sing. I said, what time is it now? And so we went to Germany in a little Idar Oberstein, and I got to sing all these old 40s ballads. I'll be seeing you long ago and far away. And she was a bad tap dancer. Maureen, I'm going to be a star. And I said, well, then what, kid? Then what? That's everything. And I say, honey, nothing's everything. So those were our characters. I was, the wise old owl, and she was the bad tap dancer, the tap. And hi, fellas. And we got to perform in front of all the American servicemen. We shot on Hitler's training grounds with real bullets going overhead, and the director was wonderful because they have a parachute drop and the walkie-talkie. There's a parachute drop, we'll quickly jump in the Jeeps, and he'd make up a scene, you know.
Oh, to shoot it, to take advantage of
the parachute drop, yeah. It's called Verna USO Girl, and if you ever have a chance to see it, it is so great. Joe Levine was going to make a movie of it, but Sissy got Farmer's Daughter or something, and Loretta Lynn, and said no. Then she changed her mind, and he said, I'll make it. My part, he was going to get Shirley MacLaine and somebody else, but they never did make it again. You couldn't remake it. It was just so great. It was Bill Hurt, William Hurt's first real role, and it was really good.
What about any stories of working on Foxes with young Jodie Foster?
Well, I just say that during the break while they were lighting, I brushed my hair, and she learned French in the trailer. You know. So that was it. And my hair didn't look any better when I got through brushing it. She knew where every light was going to be. You know, she was, I don't know how old, but
I was going to say she was only
teenager.
Yeah,
but no, she was right away smart, and and she was going to school at the same time and everything. Yeah, and then I worked with Diane Lane. That was the George Hill film. She played my daughter in a picture called A Little Romance. And she was putting on makeup. That's what she liked to do, put on makeup. But she was wonderful too. She was just darling. She was so great in that horse movie. It wasn't Seabiscuit, but what was it? Seabiscuit. It was Seabiscuit, the one she was in? Yeah. No. Secretariat. She was just so amazing. The picture was great, and not a word about it. She didn't get nominated. She didn't get anything. I mean, she was really good, at least from my point of view. Really, really good. And the picture was, too. It's funny how those things just, but you console yourself with, Cary Grant didn't get Academy Award, you're just, no big deal. I mean, it's fun to have it out there as a carrot, just in case you get one, but as we love to say, it's good to be nominated. That's how I feel. But I'm overdue, so I'm. If you know anybody, call me.
We have a very good question here from Sean, who asks, what is one thing you absolutely know now that you wish you had known when you first started your career?
That I was lucky. That no matter how good you are, there's 7,000 people lined up behind you just going to be just as good or better, that are available for the role.
You sort of alluded to that once on stage here and then backstage too, that you maybe would have done things differently with your career.
Oh, I just made things more difficult for myself, because I was stupid, and I think people don't, stupid is not as interesting, or, arrogant. Low self-esteem, arrogance. What's happened? I'm now. Is this still okay?
You're okay there. There you go.
What's happened? But I mean, every now and then I sound like,
It's just falling over something.
Can you? I mean, you know what? Can you hear the difference when I'm now?
Yeah, that's good.
Hello, 1, hello, 2. Is it now? How is it now?
That's nice.
Is it sounding okay? Sounding okay? So what'd you ask me?
You were talking about, you said that you were stupid.
Beautiful. Well, low self-esteem, arrogance, low self-esteem masquerading is something else. Confidence, you don't have to be arrogant, I'd certainly advise against it. This is really weird, the sound.
You want to talk into mine?
I don't know where it is. Hello, 1. There it is. Say, okay, who cares? As long as can you hear me? I mean, aren't you ready to go home? I can't believe it. Sorry to take so long.
We're just about there.
All right. So what were you asking me? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I could have gone on the road for 3 weeks and sung. Come back and done a movie, go on the road. Sue Mingers was a very famous agent at that time. And she's yelling at me, who do you think you are? She put in a magazine, last year Sandy Dennis, she called me. But the good news was that I had insulted every. I feel like this is the hot lips scene, where no, what, can you hear it? Is there nothing that you could do?
It's a tribute.
Is there anything you could touch to?
Sure, I'll touch. How's that?
Is that good? That's much better, yeah.
Lean back. There.
What a guy, huh? I hear he's a director.
Never turned down an opportunity to touch a woman.
And I hear that he's a director, and so I'm very excited about this. It's good. And now look, he's already done it right. But what were we saying?
Well, advice or what you wish you had known earlier in your career, which you were saying that you were lucky.
Yeah, and I branched off into filmmakers, and I'll be real quick, I hope. There was a movie, and I'd done all these interviews, and I always made homemade rolls from the box, but tea or something. So all the articles were always, we're in a warm little cozy home, and she made these nice things, and so sweet. My articles were never anything mean or anything like that. Rex Reed, I was a little dumb in the thing, but a whole New York Times article, great, it was so great. But most of the articles were just nice and pleasant. And then after dark, I did an interview, and then I thought it was over. And then they asked, how did you think of that? Oh, I hated that movie, And I said, if so-and-so was a sweeter or mincier guy playing a gay guy over the top, And I said, too bad the director's married to the writer, because she's so talented and he's such a whatever I said. I don't know what I said about him, but just not very complimentary, And it ended up in the article. I wanted to move to Santa Barbara. If there's ever anything more painful than hearing your opinions in print, there is nothing worse. And to hurt somebody or be insulting. I'm sure he hated me, so who cared? And I went to a party one night, and he was there. And I think that I'd had a little too much of something. And, I just walked by where he was having, and said, I'm so sorry, and kept going, And, they were talking among themselves, And then I saw him later, and he said, why would you say something? It was so kind, I felt like I was so horrified, so horrified. And then Joyce Haber was a big LA Times person. And she came to the door to do it. I said, listen, I love everything and everybody. So if that's not going to be interesting to you, well, just put me in your little column, that I said hi, Well, she went home and looked up everything I'd ever done and added in the thing. And furthermore, and if they'd ever been more mincy and sweeter, and all again, now I had to move to Australia, It was so horrible. It was just one of my worst experiences in show business. So, now Sue Mingers, we go off and we leave on the tour, and she goes, you believe in magic? You think it'll be here when you get back? How can you turn these movies? You can't turn this movie down, blah, blah. And me and my Stuart Cohen, who dropped dead overnight, and we look at each other and go, yeah, we do. We believe in God and magic, and, that it was all meant to be, So one day I get a call when I get back, 50,000 in the hole, wondering where I'm going to get it. The phone rings. It's Sue Mingers. Sally, did you read, I forget what magazine it was, Harper's Bazaar. Did you read it? And I said, no, what did I do? She said, no, I knocked you. I was like, oh my God, how great. It was such a relief that I hadn't knocked anybody else. I couldn't have cared what that's what she said. Who does she think she is? Last year's Sandy Dennis, So, oh my God. So the fun of show business.
Well, on that note, I'm going to give you the closing question here, which is from Brooke. And you'd spoken a little bit about dealing with chauvinism, and you've seen a lot of changes in the last few decades in this industry. So as a woman who has worked in this industry for many decades, what advice do you give to other women in this industry?
Enjoy it. Don't pay any attention. If they're treating, I don't know. I saw in that one director, He was definitely a chauvinist, you know, but when I had an idea, he just says, no way he thought it could possibly be any good because I was a woman. But I didn't feel that. In my career, I haven't really felt that, or else I didn't pay attention. You know, I mean, I don't know. I would say that, you know, if it comes up, handle it. I mean, you know, just, or either, I don't know what you do. I mean, I didn't do anything to Richard. I had an advocate with Alan Arkin, you know, who would say, no, that's a good idea. But I certainly didn't go to the head office and say, you know, I don't know what I'd do, truthfully, if there was somebody so blatantly chauvinistic. But I don't know about the casting couch or I only got one of those calls once, and I cried so hard on the phone. How could you think I was that kind of a girl? I was the head of a studio, was telling me about a friend who'd get me an apartment. I mean, I sobbed so hard. He said, okay, well, I get it, you know. You don't want it, you know. But, you know, crying is a good deal, you know. How dare you talk to me like that? I'm a woman. You don't think, or, you know, be militant, which I would like to be, you know. I mean, we don't want to get into politics, but right now we have a group of people that would like to race us right back to the 50s, and I'm not going. I am not going, you know, and I mean, it's an important issue, and it certainly is out there in the world, you know, but my experience as an actress is not. I mean, men still get paid more than women. We still have more value, you know, to the money people, I guess. But of course, Meryl and so many women have changed so much of that, you know, and it is changing. It's so much better for women. I mean, look, I had a couple of bards lately, you know. It is. I mean, you know, I'll never forget seeing the People magazine saying, and the commentators going about Demi Moore, and she still looks good. She's 40, and she looks good, you know, and it's been like a miracle. And now 48-year-olds are starring in movies, you know, and 52-year-olds. I don't know how Meryl Streep is, but they certainly don't worry about. Now, I mean, it's ludicrous. I mean, we women, you know, it's like when Obama got to be president, it's like, all right, at last, you know, we freed the slaves and we have equality at last, you know. Not so fast, gays. Not so fast, women. You know, we always got to have somebody kind of be held down to that standard. So, in a way, I think we're real lucky to be involved in this industry. So, whatever the hiccups are, I don't know what else, I've lost the command of the human language. So, whatever the bumps in the road are, you know, there's nobody trying to take us back to the 50s or control our women's reproductive system. Oh my God. I have a friend who said, you know, I wanted to take this old, you know, get a bunch of old geezers from there and we're going to sit down there and tell them, now look, we don't think that you should use contraception. And we think that you have to have a vasectomy and, you know, and then take them off. Take them off to do that, you know. So, I mean, it's not that I don't that I don't believe in women's power. We're powerful, man. We're smart. Great. So I just believe it. And if somebody doesn't treat you right, don't take it.
Well, I think I speak for all of us. And I say we're very lucky to have had you here. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much.